Welcome back on the AM show. And of course, it's time now for me to share with you my blunt thoughts this morning. Thank you, Ghana, and all of those across the world who are watching us. This morning, I've titled it, The Press Freedom Ruse, Our Economic Woes and Unemployment Blues, Ghana in the Wilderness. Ladies and gentlemen, there is this saying that translates into English to wit as, if the pauper says he'll give you clothes, listen, hearken to his name. Kwatrekwa, so bema ontuma, tienidin. It's got to that point where we really need, especially ahead of election 2024, to listen, pay keen attention to what our politicians from whatever end are saying. Because that is how we can hold them, their feet, to the fire of accountability, should we give them the nod. This morning, I want to focus on a number of matters. I want to talk about the economy. I want to talk about unemployment. I want to talk about myriad other issues. But I wanted to start just briefly from here. Mr. President, Al Jazeera, on the back of that docu they put out, the documentary Gold Mafia, has refused to apologize to you or to retract what they put into that documentary. It casts a slur not just on you, but on all of us, because you are the father of the land. I did suspect this would happen, and I said it on live television. I'm hoping you'll pursue this further as an individual so that we can get some closure to this matter, hopefully. That is my gentle charge to you this morning, Mr. President. But now let's get into the substantive issues. If you look at Ghana in terms of press freedom, we've been there, we've done that, we've done great things, but it appears in recent years, especially over the last 2 years, we appear to be losing the plot, and I don't know what it is, or don't I? Actually, I do. The likes of Ahmed Hussein Swale come to mind. You cannot for certain have such things happen without any justice served. This justice has been delayed too long. This axe is grinding for too long. And this is becoming justice denied, not just justice delayed. I'm a journalist. And I'm not saying this just because I'm a journalist, but because he was and is a human being whom we lost. Especially in the context we lost him. Do something, Mr. President, about that. But when you look at our rankings when it comes to world press freedom, in 2012, we ranked 41st. The year after that, 30th, then 27th, then our best within the last decade, thereabouts, 22nd. Befitting. Of course, we could have always done better. But then a slump began in 2016, 26th, 2017, 26th. We did well again, coming close to our all-time or our 10-year high. In 2018, 23rd, then we slipped again, 27th, and it's been a slip from there. 30th in 2020, 30th in 2021, then look at that gargantuan jump downwards. 60th, and then in 2023, well, at least per last year into this year, 62nd. We really ought to ask ourselves what is happening on that space and why this keeps happening. I'll get to that NDC gangster and his attack on a radio journalist. But I'm saying that we are doing things in this country that are affecting our world press freedom ranking. So we can say all we like. Mr. Information Minister, my good friend Kojo Ponkroma, will say what he will about the media and all of that. He used to be with us. Now he's there. Wonderful. But we must do the right things to safeguard the media, because if the media goes, that will be the end. Now on our next slide, we'll look at Ghana's outlook in terms of the Press Freedom Index. In 2019, 79.19, that's Reporters Without Borders. In 2020, 77.74, that was our score. 2021, 78.67, and then we see the dip reflected in what I just showed you. Now 67, and then finally 65.93. But what are the factors we're looking at? Journalists resort to self-censorship. Me, lie. We censor, we force journalists to shush, because guess what? Just as happened with the Radio Dagbon. incident. You are forced, you are cowed into submission, cowed into silence. It doesn't happen here. We don't do that. Journalists resort to self-censorship as the government has shown itself intolerant of criticism. And this is true, beyond reasonable doubt. The president knows it, the system knows it, the media also knows it. 1/3 of the country's media outlets are owned by politicians or people with political ties, and this is a very slippery slope. A dangerous, extremely dangerous hill we're on, because the tumble could be disastrous. The politics we play in our newspapers and the print media, on TV, on radio, where people are slanted in a certain direction. I have bashed the former administration. If you like, I can give you evidence. I'm bashing this current administration with evidence because they are doing the wrong things. Where they do right, we'll tell them, but where they err, we'll point it to them without fear or favor. That is journalism. Now, journalists are sometimes denied access to information. Haven't you seen a time without number? In fact, we have had cause to resort to the RTI Commission to source information for us. Non-transparency and inequitable procedures are used to allocate state advertising. We know that. Journalists have poor working conditions and low salaries, and there too, low salaries. Media entities across the country should learn to pay their journalists well. I can speak for myself and say my situation is good, but how about some of those people out there? How about them? How about those who are earning sub 1,000 cedis in a month? A hungry journalist is you know what I mean. We must also get some responsibility. And I was sharing with some people yesterday that maybe we need to have standards like the chartered accountants or the marketers would have, so that you go through a certain process to qualify to be a journalist. And after that, once you qualify, then there's a certain baseline that you must meet. I cannot speak so much for the technical people, like those on camera and all of that, but we must do something about the situation. Then there is politicians continuing to threaten journalists while most cases of violence against journalists are not pursued. All of these factored into those rankings. Now, Sadim Abubakar Garba of Dagban Radio was attacked while hosting a live show at Tamale in Tamale in the northern region. Former Deputy Communications Officer of the NDC, Hadi Pagaza, stormed the facility and started an altercation. Mr. Pagaza's compatriot threatened to, quote, stop mentioning his name if you don't want to die. And the presenter had opened the show with a clip in which Mr. Pagaza was talking about him, but the presenter decided not to respond. I would say that the full rigors of the law ought to deal with this former executive of the NDC. It makes no sense. And it happened on World Press Freedom Day. When the law bites on such matters, others will learn. Because in law, we're taught that sometimes you must use measures that forestall other people from doing same. In this instance, let's pursue the law to its logical conclusion. But what have some prominent people been saying about this situation? Politicization of the media is a threat to democracy. Gifty Afenyi Dazi, former president of the GJA. It could lead to media unaccountability. Media houses should continually highlight challenges posed by illegal mining, which we're doing, develop stronger interest in the country's economic management. There's more. We have Justice Dennis Ajay. Journalists must fearlessly express their opinion on national development issues. It's not that easy to say so. It's not that easy to be here and do what I do, because we all know the challenges and the threats we face. And the subtle, reaching around certain people within certain circles to influence that. But lie. Intimidation from politicians must be condemned. But justice, you know very well what they do and how they get away with it. So since you are in the judicial system, how do we counter it? And freedom of speech plays a vital role in promoting all human rights and drives the development of a country. But just segueing from there into our own economic situation currently. 22% of the public sector wage bill goes to unearned salaries. Think about that, Ghana fool. We're looking at a whopping 10 billion Ghana cedis annually going into some level of corruption. Public sector wage bills going into unearned salaries. And government is sitting on all of that. I keep saying that this IMF thing we're going to, it makes no sense. Absolutely no sense. We literally saw ourselves getting into a ditch and we ran towards it. Look at all of this. Look at the rot in the system. 22%, a fifth, more than a fifth of our wage bill goes into unearned salaries. Not earned, yet we pay. Which serious country does that? Payroll monitoring exercise has been initiated to eliminate the fraud, and the exercise will not cover. Another thing I found important, Article 71 office holders. So for them, everything like this, exempt. What about what is going on in there? Anyway, we'll have time for that some other day. But in terms of our economic outlook, Ghana is to end 2023 with a debt to GDP ratio of about 99%. How can you sustain an economy on that? And economies elsewhere are sustained on that, but these are developed economies. So let me rephrase. How can you sustain a developing economy like this? That's according to the IMF. Our GDP growth rate will slow down to 1.6%, again, according to the IMF. The cedi is to depreciate further by 30%. That's according to the EIU. And Ghana's debt to GDP ratio fell by only 1% despite debt restructuring, still above 100%. That's according to Fitch. So all the pain we've put everybody through led to just 1%. Was it worth it? You tell me. You decide. Then we look at Ghana's skyrocketing external debt. Our total debt stock as of now, 575.7 billion Ghana cedis. The external debt stock as of December 2022, 30.50 billion. That is 60% of our GDP. In addition to the external debt, 2021 to 2022, of 3 billion. Now, in terms of the external loan agreements that have been signed by Parliament, look at them since 2018, 17, 19, 2020, a whopping 62. And in 2021, 28, when our appetite seemingly abated for a bit. And of course, with those new loans, as far as those 7 line items, taking out the Swami interchange, which was moved from a project somewhere in the Afram Plains, the $750 million, that one I don't want to get into. But setting up a new development bank, the DBG, and all of such, sorry, let me season my words, all of such hogwash. We have the ADB, we have the NIB. Why do we need another development bank again? Somebody explain to me. And why are we still pumping funds into this COVID-19 expenditure? We're still paying, when you go anywhere to do anything, a lot of the line items, you'll be paying for COVID-19 levy. What is that? Why are we still paying that? Even when the WHO has declared it no longer a pandemic. Ghana for you. And we're sitting there and not talking. Now, in terms of Ghana's alarming unemployment rate, as I get ready to wrap, idle hands are the devil's workshop. Idle lips are his mouthpiece. Go read Proverbs 16:27. It's not someone's quote. It actually starts with the Bible. According to the National Security Strategy document, youth unemployment is a threat to national security. But where exactly are we on that? Our labor force, 12.76 million. I have a few issues with some of these statistics, but it's fine. 12.76 million. Those employed, 11 million. Unemployed, 1.76 million. I have my issue with the unemployed category. But about 25% of our youth are neither in employment nor education or training. No employment, no education, no training. This is a recipe for disaster. This is a national security issue staring us in the face, right there. National security issue. So at the national level, 77.74, and at the youth level, same, 77.74. In terms of female unemployment, and this is what really got me, 2 out of every 3 unemployed persons are female. 2 out of 3. That is serious. So whether it's the economy, which is hemorrhaging badly, or unemployment, especially with a situation like this, and I'm going to harp on this, this is not befitting of a country that claims to have such democratic credentials, Mr. President. We must do something about this statistic. Women account for more than 50% of our population. In the labor force, practically same. How can this be? It means that for every 100%, you pick in terms of unemployment, women constitute over 66%. Why? Let's create the opportunities. Let's do the right things. Let's stop the plenty talk. This administration talks too much. Do the work. Go on the ground. And if you do the right things, breaking the 8, you will not even have to talk about it. But right now, you can't even break a wooden spoon. You can't even break a broomstick. Talk of breaking the 8. Do the right things, and the people, even without the talk, will give you their mandate. That is my charge to you, Mr. President. But as I wrap, I want to leave you, Ghana, with 2 proverbs, African proverbs. The first is an Igbo one. It says, "A bird that flies off the earth and lands on an anthill is still on the ground." Mibumube. A bird that flies from the earth and lands on an anthill is still on the ground. Has this administration flown? Has it taken off? Do they even have any justification for wanting another term? I'll leave that to you. Let's hold leadership accountable, Ghana. Let's hold them as we ought to. Don't let it just be Benjamin Akakpo. You out there in your office, you know the rot that is in the system. Yesterday on a migration page somewhere, someone was trying to defend the indefensible. Let's stop that nonsense. If it is wrong, it is wrong. Regardless of whose ox is God, regardless of NDC, NPP, take your partisan lenses off and deal with the reality. The final proverb is this: "He that beats the drum for the madman to dance is no better than the madman himself." He that beats the drum, for the madman, the lunatic to dance, is no better than the madman himself. That's another African proverb. I will not expatiate on that. I will not explain. It's up to you to read between the lines. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. I love Ghana, and that is why I do this. These are my blunt thoughts shared with you this Friday morning for God and country, served raw, hot, unedited, undiluted. God richly bless Ghana, that is my prayer, and make her great and strong. Thank you for watching.